The first thing I noticed wasn't the pain in my chest. It was the look on her face. Not fear. Not panic. A smirk. The cold metal of the stethoscope pressed against my skin as she leaned closer, listening carefully. For a moment the room felt completely silent, except for the frantic pounding inside my chest. Then she tilted her head slightly, raised an eyebrow, and said with a quiet, teasing confidence that caught me completely off guard. My heartbeat was racing. Pounding, actually. And apparently she found that amusing. If you believe in stories about kindness, second chances, and the unexpected people who change our lives forever, take a moment right now to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who believes in compassion, and subscribe to the Kindness Chronicles. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that may truly need them. Because the truth is, that moment in the hospital room didn't just save my life. It changed it. Completely. 3 hours earlier, I had been lying on the cold pavement outside a convenience store, staring at the gray winter sky and wondering if maybe this was how everything finally ended. The funny thing about breaking down is that it rarely happens all at once. People imagine some dramatic collapse, some loud explosion of emotions. But most of the time, it's quieter than that. It's a slow erosion. A crack here. Another there. Until one day the whole structure just gives up. That day had started like every other miserable morning for the past year. I woke up in my small, nearly empty apartment with the same dull ache in my chest that had become a permanent companion. Bills sat unopened on the kitchen counter. My phone showed 3 missed calls from unknown numbers, which I knew were debt collectors. The refrigerator contained half a bottle of water and a carton of eggs that had probably expired 2 weeks earlier. A year before, my life had looked completely different. Over near a narrow road leading into a cluster of pine trees. My phone had almost no signal, but a faint map showed something nearby, a small roadside lodge. It was our only chance. We walked through the storm with the wind pushing against us like a wall. Snow soaked through our coats and boots within minutes. My fingers felt numb, my breath turning into clouds in the freezing air. By the time we reached the lodge, both of us were shaking. The building looked old, quiet, almost forgotten. A small wooden sign hung above the door, creaking in the wind. Inside, a tired elderly man stood behind the front desk. The lobby lights flickered softly, casting long shadows across wooden floors. He looked at us with sympathy and explained something that made my stomach drop. There was only one room left. And only one bed. I expected Evelyn to refuse instantly. At the office she demanded professionalism in everything, and I assumed she would rather freeze than share a room with an employee. But she surprised me. Instead of anger, she simply looked out the frosted window at the raging storm outside. Then she said quietly that we had no other choice. Her voice was calm, practical, but something in it sounded different. Almost human. The room was small but warm. A single lamp glowed beside the bed, and a tiny heater hummed in the corner. Outside, the storm howled against the windows like a restless ocean. At first, the silence between us was heavy. In the office, she was always surrounded by people, meetings, and decisions. Here, in this quiet room, she looked strangely different. Less powerful. Less distant. Just tired. We sat on opposite sides of the room, still wrapped in our coats, warming our hands near the heater. The snowstorm continued through the night, shaking the windows and cutting off every road out of the mountains. The lodge owner told us it could last until morning, maybe longer. Hours passed. Something unexpected began to happen. The invisible wall between boss and employee slowly started to crumble. At first, it was small things. Casual observations. Quiet comments about the storm. Then, gradually, stories about work, life, and the strange paths that had brought us both here. For the first time since joining the company, I saw the person behind the reputation. Evelyn Carter wasn't cold. She was carrying something heavy. She spoke about long nights building the company from nothing. About sacrifices no one ever saw. About how success sometimes creates a lonely world where everyone expects strength, but no one asks if you're tired. Her voice never broke, but her eyes revealed something deeper. Loneliness. And in that quiet mountain room, the storm outside seemed to mirror the storms both of us had been carrying inside. The hours passed slowly, and the temperature outside kept dropping. Eventually the heater struggled to keep up with the cold seeping through the walls. That was when she said something unexpected. Not as a command. Not as a boss. But as a simple human reality. There was only one bed, and staying warm mattered more than pride. So we shared the bed under thick blankets while the wind roared outside like a wild beast. Yet the moment was not awkward. It was quiet. Honest. Two people who had spent their lives hiding behind responsibilities suddenly faced a rare moment of stillness. In that silence, I realized something important. Sometimes the people who appear the strongest are simply the ones who learn to hide their pain the best. The storm raged through the night, but something warm and unspoken grew in that small room. Not romance. Not something dramatic. Something rarer. Understanding. Morning arrived slowly. The storm weakened, leaving behind a world buried under untouched white snow. When we stepped outside, the mountains looked peaceful, almost magical, like the storm had washed the world clean. But something else had changed. Evelyn looked at the sunrise quietly for a long moment. And for the first time since I had met her, she smiled. Not the polite smile she used in meetings. A real one. Weeks later, back at the office, things felt different. She was still a strong leader, still disciplined and focused. But there was a new warmth in the way she treated people. More patience. More listening. More kindness. And I realized that sometimes the smallest unexpected moments can change a person's heart. Not grand speeches. Not big events. Just one night. One storm. One quiet room where two strangers stopped pretending to be strong. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who might need a reminder about kindness, and subscribe to The Kindness Chronicles. Your support helps keep these meaningful stories alive. And before you go, I have a special request for you. Please write in the comments the line, "Kindness can warm even the coldest storm." Because sometimes the world needs reminders that compassion, understanding, and second chances still exist. And sometimes, all it takes to change a life is one stormy night. Snowflake.